Justin Crawford is today's Down on the Farm report.
Final two.
Crawford comes in number 2 for us. Depending on who you're reading, he's either 2, 3. I've seen some people toy with the idea of flipping Miller and Crawford. He could be as low as 4. Depends how you rate Abel and all this. Name alone, Crawford might be the most baseball name ever. When you're searching Baseball America for just Crawford, there's like 35 to 40 guys that come up. So the last name alone says this kid's a ball player.
Yeah, that's a good point. I would love to. I'm sure there's a stat somewhere about the most popular,
common last name in baseball. Crawford's got to be up there.
Hit it.
Now batting for the Phillies, center fielder Justin Crawford.
There it is. Justin Carl Crawford,
yes,
baby.
His father obviously was a hell of a player. Is Carl Crawford. We remember him from the 2008 World Series. He was with the Upton brothers and all of them down in Tampa. His cousin is JP Crawford, who has turned into a pretty damn nice player. Phillies minor leaguer at one point. He was drafted in the first round, 17th overall in 2022, out of Bishop Gorman High School in Las Vegas, which has turned into a little bit of a baseball mini factory. I think Joey Gallo is the most famous one from there currently playing.
There's another prospect.
I think they have 4 or 5 guys in the majors from Bishop Gorman.
Yeah.
So he originally committed to LSU, another baseball factory. Sorry, my phone just started bugging out. Oh, I missed a FaceTime call from my mother-in-law. That's good. So he signed for $3.75 million out of high school to decommit from LSU. He's a center fielder, most likely because of his offensive game. If he goes to the corner, his arm, which we'll get into, they said it's okay for left, not great for right. He's pretty much pigeonholed because of his skill set into that center field position. Bats left, throws right, 6'1", 175 pounds. They want him to get bigger in his lower half. They don't think the body, because Carl was a little bit of a meat. Like, he had some meat on those bones.
It's just funny how you describe people's bodies.
Yeah, so they don't think that Justin can necessarily get to that level, but they do think there's room for muscular addition to the body. That they'd prefer it to be in his lower half. So obviously the son of a 15-year big leaguer. He was selected out of high school, as we said. He's still only, I didn't write this down. I think he's 20 now.
He's 20. He just turned 20, actually,
just turned
in January.
20, yes. So here's the note from Tyler's graphic. He looks like his dad, that's for sure.
Can't deny those genes.
He's up to 6'4" now. Okay, I read something that said 6'3", 6'4", but when he was drafted, he was 6'1". Okay, so excuse me, error in my notes there. 2023, he split time between low A and high A. There's his slash line, 332, 392, 467. Only 33 extra base hits for a kid with this amount of speed. I don't want to say it's alarming because it's decent, but we'll get into the negatives on him in a minute. He has a very low whiff rate in zone, elite speed. What does that last one say? High. Oh, ground ball percentage. Yes, and that is the negative. But Renee, you know how I feel about bloodlines.
Oh, yeah.
There's a great bloodline this kid's coming from. He's big enough. He's fast enough. He's athletic as hell. They think his outfield ball tracking needs to improve to become more sharpened there, to truly become an elite center fielder. They say he covers up for a lot defensively with his just pure athleticism, but they think technically he needs to become more sound in the outfield.
Yeah, so there's a lot of cool stuff that I read on him. Of course, being that he's the son of Carl, his mom, Amy, there was like a piece on just how she was such a pivotal role in helping him to get over just the pressure. So obviously he grew up with his dad and being at an age where he was able to be in the ballpark and experience it and experience his dad as a professional athlete. And for any son of or child of a professional athlete, there is that expectation you're going to be the same as them and better. And so I know he's talked about how it gave him a lot of anxiety and he got nervous before games. If he didn't get a hit, he would spiral. And that Amy was very pivotal in helping him just to be in the moment, telling him to like close his eyes, do you, and understanding you're more than Carl Crawford's son, you're Justin Crawford. And so Justin Crawford is emerging into his own. He definitely has a lot of positives. There are definitely some negatives. I know in the chat there are comments about the negatives as well. But the fact that he is going to be, as Mickey's saying, a stud. So the reports that have come out on him that people have, he has potential, just like they all do.
To be a stud.
So when he was drafted, he was one of the best runners in the draft class. Regularly turns in a 70 grade run time, according to Baseball America. Power is, as you talked about, the last part of his game that needs to develop. The lower half that you have everybody in the chat going crazy on. Bigger
he needs
lower
to be
half.
A little thick. He needs to get built like a milkshake.
Even if he's never a big power hitter, he should be able to find plenty of extra base hits by just driving balls in the gaps and using his speed on the bases. The speed is a big part of it. And some of the reports have said that they wouldn't describe him as raw, as we like to sometimes say these young players are. His bat is advanced. He hits against high-level competition at a well percentage for the most part. But the big thing is the power that's developing. So for Justin, I think there's upside. He is very advanced defensively, and that his athleticism and speed has turned a lot of heads. That's what the Phillies scouting director, Brian Barber, was talking a lot about in his process through the draft. And that he's more advanced defensively, I should say, at this stage than his father was, and really has a lot of differences in his game from his dad, because naturally people want to compare Justin to Carl, and there are a lot of differences in their game. But Barber was saying at the time he was drafted that no doubt center field in his future, and that he can be an elite defensive center fielder in the future. So, I mean, I think on the defensive side, that's something that makes sense. It's just the hitting as a left-handed hitter, the amount of ground balls, and just the struggles there have been very, very eye-opening. 480 stolen bases. His dad had over 15 big league seasons. His son has that same speed, yes, but he's missing some key pieces that are helping him to be that full stud that many may think he can be.
So he's kind of a polarizing prospect in that he ranges as high on Keith Law's list as 43rd. MLB Pipeline has him down at 73rd. And ESPN's top 100 doesn't even have him in the top 100 because there are some negatives here. I know Mickey in the chat is saying he's a lock to be a stud. Maybe he didn't say lock, but he said this kid's going to be a stud. I think there's some concerning things. And this year, he's probably going to start in high A, possibility of low A, could make his way up the ranks through the summer if he performs well. The negatives are pretty glaring. He had a very high OPS last year, an 860 OPS, but 70% of his hit balls were on the ground. Now, he has a -9 launch angle on his swing, which
no.
That's a lot to correct, because I think his OPS is kind of disguising what he is, because I think his raw speed and athleticism is allowing him to get on base more frequently than his hits should say are allowed. A -9 is really, really bad. He was the most extremely ground ball oriented player in the minor league system in 2023. Now, he hits the ball hard. His exit velocities are good. His average exit velocity was in the 90th plus percentile at 103 miles an hour off the bat. The problem is with a -9 launch angle, these balls are going right into the ground. He's not getting anything in the air. So if you're going to be an everyday center fielder, the defense has to improve a little bit this year from a technical standpoint. That's fine. I believe in him doing that. To be a center fielder, you're going to have to utilize the speed. And it's the same thing with Rojas this year. Yeah. To utilize that speed, you're going to have to put balls in the gap, and you're going to have to get the ball up over the infield and into those gaps or down the line. And right now, at 70% of his balls are going into the ground. That's pretty troubling. Yeah. And we'll see if he can. I just picture somebody like chopping down on the ball now with a -9.
I'm like, how do you
Tyler,
do that?
You're a bigger baseball nerd than me. I don't recall many guys with a -9 launch angle.
So there, for a long time throughout the course of baseball's history, there was a time and place for guys that hit like this, because there was that old Richie Ashburn saying,
Sure,
hit them where they ain't. You make a career out of it. You have slap hitters, you have guys that didn't hit the ball overly hard but got on base. Ozzie Smith was one of them. Larry Bowa was one of them. Guys that choke up.
Ozzie Smith, I think, career 260. I was looking this up last night. Career 262 hitter, career on base of 338.
So there was a time and a place for I don't want to call them slap hitters because that's not fair.
Ichiro,
but
being the crown jewel of
there
that.
there is an effect of, if I put the ball through the 5.5 hole, it's a base hit, right? If I go opposite field as a lefty and it's between the shortstop and the third baseman, it's a base hit every time. In today's game, it becomes less and less apparent, or more and more apparent, I should say, less and less prevalent, that you have guys that are singles hitters, that are guys that can get on base at a high clip. And, I almost harken back to the scene in Major League where it's like, if you put the ball in the air, you give me 20 push-ups. Put the ball on the ground and run it out. It just doesn't really happen anymore. It's not to say that it's a bad thing, but it's
stacked against them.
In today's era of baseball, it is a troubling number.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Fair or unfair to the type of player that he is.
70% is hard to believe.
I just don't even understand how that's possible.
So, everybody wants, and this is part of the reason why, Aiden Miller, to me, is, in my dumb brain, a more exciting prospect now than Justin Crawford. Look, he's just turned 20. He's got time to correct this, and because of the raw ability and athleticism and, the good whiff rate in zone and his ability to put bat on ball and 103 mile, there's more positives than there are negatives, but those negatives are glaring to me.
Yeah.
70% on the ground, I don't know how you improve that. To be an everyday center fielder, he's going to have to get that down 45, 50%.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a huge jump. To me, that screams swing adjustments, and maybe the Phillies can help develop him. And I eat these words in a couple years, but I guess I'm getting to I don't know if I make him my one protected offensive piece that I guard, that I put in a bubble and say, no, you can't have him.
So what's a number to you at that ground ball rate that's 68, 70 for him? What's a number to you that gets acceptable to become
45, 50?
So my question is if now add in the speed, because Crawford was faster than the guy that I'm about to mention, although this guy stole a little bit of bags in the beginning of his career. If Crawford produced a David Eckstein type offensive career, is that acceptable? He's at 50%, 44, 47, 44, 47. That was what Eckstein was more of a, put it in play, ground ball type of hitter.
He choked up so much on the bat.
He's a career 280 hitter over the course of 10 years. To me, that's if you get a David Eckstein type of mold hitter out of Justin Crawford,
I think that's
a win.
Yeah.
I don't think the power's coming, and it's just, can he get the ball up? It's going to be a hard thing for him to do. Hypothetical man in the chat says there wasn't a qualified major league hitter with a negative launch angle.
Yeah,
that's -9.
That's bad. I know a number of reports have indicated that about 1 in 5 MLB executives are, he's caught the eye of 1 in 5 MLB executives because of his speed. And that's something that has a lot of people interested. And also the projection that he would not be able to play in the majors and be MLB ready in that sense until 2026. It's just a lot of similarities to, even as we talk about the struggles that Yoro's dealing with. Okay, you can be an exceptional center fielder, but you're not ready to be an everyday center fielder with a -9. And the numbers, the ground ball percentage being so high. But if at 20 years old, he just turned 20, they're able to fix it in the next few years.
Yeah, we'll see.
But it's wild that he's a top prospect for the Phillies with those staggering numbers that are extremely negative. I mean, these are majors. You talk about the fix from, the ground ball percentage to be at least a 45, 50% that's a jump. That's a jump. So there's a lot of potential, as we always say with these prospects. He's advanced in some areas of his game. The speed is definitely tremendous, but him as his at-bats in general just got to be much better.
So his final scout grades, and then we'll wrap up here. The scout grades give him a 50 on the hit scale, a 40 on the power scale, a 70 on run. Fielding is 55, arm is 50.